war had lasted 12 years. 12 years of fire and death across the stars, 12 years of burning colonies and broken families. The Valari Empire had expected to crush humanity in a few months. They were wrong. Una stood at the window of her father's throne room, watching the ships return from the front lines. Many of them were damaged. Some would never fly again. She pressed her pale blue hand against the cold glass and closed her eyes. "You summoned me." "Father," she said without turning around. Emperor Gon sat on his throne, his silver robes flowing around him like liquid metal. His face was tired. The war had aged him. "Sit down, Una." She turned and walked to the chair beside his throne. Her silver-white hair fell past her shoulders, and her violet eyes showed no emotion. She had learned long ago to hide her feelings in this palace. "The council has made a decision," her father said. "We are offering peace to the humans." Una's heart jumped, but she kept her face calm. "Peace? After everything they have done to us?" "After everything we have done to each other," Gon corrected. "We started this war, Una. We thought humans were weak. We thought they would break easily." He shook his head slowly. "We were fools." Una remembered the reports she had read. Humans had no advanced technology when the war began. They had no powerful weapons or great ships, but they learned. They adapted. They fought with a desperation that terrified even the bravest Valari soldiers. For every human that fell, 2 more seemed to rise. "What are the terms?" she asked. Gon was silent for a long moment. Then he looked at his daughter with something she had never seen in his eyes before. "It looked like shame, a marriage," he said. "Between you and a human male." The world stopped. Una felt her blood turn to ice. "What? A political marriage? To show the galaxy that our 2 species can live together in peace? You want me to marry a human?" Una stood up, her hands shaking. "A primitive? A lesser being? I want to end this war." Gon's voice echoed through the throne room. "I want to stop sending our children to die. I want our people to survive." He lowered his voice. "And I want you to do your duty," Una wanted to scream. She wanted to cry. But she was a princess of the Valari Empire. She did neither. "Who?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "They will choose. Someone unimportant. Someone expendable." Gon looked away. "I am sorry, my daughter. But this is the only way." Far away, on a small blue planet called Earth, a young man named Teho received the news. He sat in a military office, wearing his worn soldier's uniform. Across the desk, 3 generals stared at him with uncomfortable expressions. "You want me to marry their princess?" Teho said. His voice was calm and flat. "The Valari have requested a human male of no political importance," General Park explained. "Someone who will not be missed. Someone who has no family connections, no wealth, no power. Someone disposable," Teho said. The generals shifted in their seats. They did not deny it. "I've served with honor, Sergeant," another general said. "But you have no living parents. No wife, no children. Your record is clean but unremarkable. You are the perfect candidate." Teho was silent for a long time. The generals waited, expecting him to refuse. They had backup candidates ready. "I accept," Teho said. The generals blinked in surprise. "You accept? Just like that?" "Just like that." Teho stood up. "When do I leave?" The generals looked at each other. They had prepared arguments and offers of compensation. They had not prepared for simple acceptance. 3 days, General Park said. "The Valari diplomatic ship will arrive in 3 days." Teho nodded and walked toward the door. "Sergeant," one general called out. "Why? Why would you agree to this?" Teho stopped, but did not turn around. "Because someone has to, and I have nothing left to lose." He left the room, and the generals sat in confused silence. That night, Teho took a transport to a small house outside the city. The door opened before he could knock. "I knew you would come," said the woman standing in the doorway. Su-Min was Teo's younger sister. She was a scientist, working on projects that no one talked about. Her eyes were the same dark brown as her brother's, and they were filled with worry. "You heard," Teho said. Everyone has heard. The human who will marry the alien princess. Xuman stepped aside to let him in. They think you are crazy. Maybe I am. They sat together in her small living room. Outside, the stars were beginning to appear in the evening sky. Why did you accept? Xuman asked quietly. Teho looked at his hands. They were the hands of an ordinary man. Rough from work, scarred from battle, nothing special. I felt something, he said. When I read about the marriage proposal, I felt something calling me. Like this is what I am supposed to do. Xuman reached out and took his hands in hers. Brother, listen to me carefully. You know what you are. You know what sleeps inside you? Teho said nothing. Do not reveal yourself unless you have no other choice. Promise me. Her grip tightened. The galaxy is not ready to know the truth about us, about humanity. Promise, Teho said. I will be careful. Mean it, Teho. If they discover what you really are, what we really are, everything will change. The balance of power. The future of every species. Xuman's voice shook. You carry a secret that could shake the foundations of the universe. Teho pulled his sister into a hug. I know, I have carried it my whole life. I will not fail. They held each other for a long time, two ordinary humans, saying goodbye. But they were not ordinary. They had never been ordinary. And one day, the galaxy would learn the truth. 3 days later, Teho stood at the spaceport. A crowd had gathered to watch him board the Valari diplomatic ship. Some people cheered. Some people wept. Most simply stared in silence at the man who would become a symbol of peace. Teho walked up the ramp without looking back. The Valari guards inside looked at him with disgust and curiosity. He was small compared to them, fragile, ordinary. He found a seat near a window and watched as the ship lifted off the ground. Earth grew smaller below him. The blue oceans. The green lands. The only home humanity had ever known. Goodbye, he whispered. The ship jumped to hyperspace. And the stars stretched into lines of light around him, in the window's reflection. Just for a moment, Teho's eyes flickered with a strange golden light. Then it was gone, and he was just a man again. Just a man going to marry a princess. Just a man carrying the weight of an ancient secret. Just a human. Heading into the unknown. And the universe had no idea what was coming. The Valari homeworld was beautiful. Teho had to admit that as the ship descended through the clouds, crystal towers rose from the ground like giant flowers. Cities floated in the sky on platforms of shimmering energy. Everything sparkled in the light of their twin suns. But the beauty felt cold, empty, like a painting that had no soul. Crowds gathered at the landing platform. Thousands of Valari had come to see the human. Their pale blue skin glowed softly in the sunlight. Their violet and silver eyes watched him with a mixture of disgust and curiosity. Look at it, someone whispered loudly. So small. So weak. This is what our princess must marry. How shameful. Teho walked through the crowd with his head held high. He did not react to the insults. He did not flinch at the hateful stares. He simply walked, calm and steady, toward the palace. The wedding ceremony took place that same day. Emperor Gon wanted it finished quickly, before anyone could change their mind. Yuna stood at the altar in a dress of white and silver. She was the most beautiful creature Teho had ever seen. Her silver hair was decorated with tiny crystals. Her violet eyes shone like jewels. But those eyes were cold, dead. She looked at him like he was an insect she had been forced to touch. The ceremony was short. Yuna spoke her vows in a flat voice, never once looking at Teho's face. When it was time for them to join hands, her fingers barely touched his before pulling away. It is done, Emperor Gon announced. The war is over. Let this union bring peace to our peoples. The crowd cheered, but there was no joy in the sound. It was the cheer of duty, not celebration. The wedding feast was held in the great hall of the palace. Hundreds of nobles ate and drank at long tables. Teho sat beside Yuna at the high table, feeling the weight of every stare. Human. A voice cut through the noise. Teho looked up. A tall Valari warrior stood before him. He wore the uniform of a general, decorated with medals and honors. His face was hard and cruel. "I am General Hain," the warrior said. "I have killed many of your kind in battle." "I know who you are," Teho replied calmly. "Your name is well known on Earth." "Good then, you know what I think of this piece?" Jan smiled coldly. "And what I think of you." He picked up a glass of wine from the table and casually poured it over Teho's head. The red liquid ran down his face and soaked into his clothes. The hall went silent. Everyone watched to see what would happen. Teho did not move. He did not shout. He simply picked up a cloth from the table and began to wipe his face. "Thank you for the welcome, General," he said quietly. "The wine is excellent." Some of the nobles laughed. Hyun's face turned dark with anger. He wanted a fight. He wanted the human to give him a reason, but Teho gave him nothing. Hon spat, just like all humans. Insects, pretending to be people. He walked away, and the feast continued as if nothing had happened. Yuna watched all of this in silence. She felt many things. Disgust at the human's weakness, anger at Han's behavior, and something else. Something small that she could not name. Was it respect? No, impossible. How could she respect such a pathetic creature? That night, Yuna and Teho went to their shared chambers. Yuna had demanded separate beds on opposite sides of the room. A wall of curtains divided the space between them. "Understand this, human," Yuna said as she stood by her bed. "This marriage is political. Nothing more. I will never love you. I will never touch you. We will live as strangers until one of us dies." Teho nodded slowly. "I understand, Princess." Good. Yuna turned away. "But may I say one thing?" Yuna paused, but did not turn around. "What?" "I did not come here to be loved," Teho said softly. "I came here to protect you." Ugh. Yuna let out a small laugh. "Protect me? You cannot even protect yourself from a glass of wine. What could you possibly protect me from?" Teho did not answer. He simply bowed and disappeared behind his curtain. Yuna lay in her bed that night, unable to sleep. His words echoed in her mind. Such strange words. Such impossible words. What was wrong with this human? The weeks that followed were quiet. Teho moved through the palace like a shadow. He learned their language perfectly within days, which surprised everyone. He studied their customs, their history, their art. He asked questions of servants and nobles alike, always polite, always curious. The palace staff began to change their opinion of him. He remembered their names. He asked about their families. When a young servant girl dropped a tray of food, he helped her clean it up before anyone could punish her. "Why do you do this?" the girl asked him, confused. "You are the princess's husband. You do not need to help servants." "Everyone deserves kindness," Teho replied with a smile. No matter who they are, word spread through the palace. The human was strange. The human was kind. The human never raised his voice, never showed anger, never treated anyone as beneath him. Yuna heard these stories and grew annoyed and curious. And something else she refused to admit. One day she found Teho in the palace garden. He was on his knees in the dirt planting flowers. "What are you doing?" she demanded. "The gardener's wife is sick," Teho explained. "He went home to care for her. I offered to help with his work. You are royalty now? You do not do servant's work." Teho looked up at her with those calm, dark eyes. "I am the same person I was before I came here, Princess. A title does not change who I am." Yuna stared at him for a long moment. She wanted to say something cruel, something to remind him of his place, but the words would not come. She turned and walked away, her heart beating strangely in her chest. That night, in a dark corner of the palace, General Han met with shadowy figures. "Everything is ready," one of them said. "The princess will die at the Unity Festival. We will blame the humans. The war will begin again." Heian smiled. "As it should. Peace with humans is an insult to our people." "What about her husband?" Heian laughed. "The human. He is nothing. Let him die with her. No one will mourn either of them, The shadows nodded in agreement, and in his chambers, Tejo lay awake in the darkness. His eyes were closed, but his senses reached out through the palace, like invisible threads. He could feel the danger coming. He could feel the darkness gathering, and he knew that soon, very soon, he would have to break his promise to his sister. Some secrets cannot stay hidden forever. 1 month passed since the wedding. The Unity Festival was only 2 days away. The whole planet was preparing to celebrate the new peace between humans and Valari, but Yuna could not stop thinking about her husband. It made no sense. He was human, weak, primitive, everything she had been taught to despise. And yet, something about him had begun to crack the walls around her heart. She found herself watching him from windows, following him through hallways, listening to the stories that servants told about his kindness yesterday. She learned that he had carried an injured Valari child 3 miles to a medical center. The child had fallen from a wall near the palace. Tejo found him crying in the street and simply picked him up and walked. No questions. No hesitation. He did not even know the child's name. Today, she decided to confront him. She found him in the library, reading a book about Valari history. He looked up when she entered and smiled softly. "Princess, how can I help you?" Yuna sat down across from him. "I want to understand you." "Understand me?" "Yes." She leaned forward. "Why are you so kind to everyone? These people hate you. They mock you. They call you names. And you just smile and help them anyway. Why?" Tejo closed his book and thought for a moment. "May I tell you a story?" Yuna nodded. "When I was young, there was a man in my village who everyone hated. He was poor and dirty and strange. Children threw rocks at him. Adults cursed him in the streets." Tejo's eyes grew distant. "One day I was lost in the forest. I had wandered too far and could not find my way home. Night was coming and I was scared. What happened? The strange man found me. He brought me home. He walked me all the way to my door, even though he knew my father would curse him for it." Tejo smiled at the memory. "I asked him why. Why help someone whose family hated him? What did he say? He said, 'Cruelty is easy. Kindness takes strength. I choose to be strong.'" Tejo looked into Yuna's eyes. "I have never forgotten those words. That man had nothing. No money, no friends, no respect. But he had more strength than anyone I have ever known." Yuna sat in silence. Something was happening inside her chest. Something warm and frightening. "You're very strange," she finally said. "I know," Tejo laughed softly. "But strange is not always bad." Yuna stood to leave, then stopped at the door. "The Unity Festival is in 2 days. You will stand beside me at the ceremony, of course, Princess? After." She paused. "After, perhaps we could walk in the gardens together. If you want." Tejo's smile grew wider. "I would like that very much." Yuna left quickly, her face feeling hot. What was happening to her? Was she actually beginning to care for this human? That night, Tejo walked through the palace with a troubled heart. His instincts had been screaming at him for days. Something was wrong. Something dangerous was coming. He tried to tell Yuna about his concerns the next morning. "I think there may be a threat against you," he said as they ate breakfast together. Yuna raised an eyebrow. "A threat? From whom?" "I do not know exactly, but I feel it. Something bad is going to happen at the festival." Yuna shook her head. "You feel it? That is not evidence, Tejo. The festival will have hundreds of guards. I will be perfectly safe. Please, Princess, let me stay close to you. Let me protect you." Yuna looked at him with something between affection and doubt. "You really do want to protect me, don't you? Even though you cannot fight, even though you have no power." "I would give my life for you," Tejo said simply. Without hesitation, the words hung in the air between them. Yuna did not know how to respond. No one had ever said anything like that to her before. "Fine," she said at last. "You may stay close to me. But please do not cause any problems." That night, Yuna went to bed early. She was tired from all the preparations. The festival was tomorrow. Everything had to be perfect. Tejo stayed in his section of their chambers, but he did not sleep. He sat in the darkness, listening, waiting, his every sense on high alert. The attack came at midnight. 3 shadows moved through the window without a sound. They were elite assassins, trained since birth to kill. Their bodies had been modified with technology that made them nearly invisible in the dark. They moved toward Yuna's bed with plasma blades in their hands. Yuna slept peacefully. Unaware of the death that approached, the first assassin raised his blade, and then he was flying across the room, his body slamming into the wall with enough force to break stone. The second assassin turned, confused. Something grabbed him by the throat and lifted him off the ground. He tried to scream, but no sound came out. There was a crack, and he went limp. The third assassin ran for the window. He almost made it, but an invisible force caught him in midair and pulled him back. He hit the floor hard, and before he could move, something pressed down on him with impossible weight. Yuna woke to the sound of breaking bones. She sat up in bed, her heart pounding. The room was dark, but she could see shapes on the floor. Bodies, 3 bodies, broken and still, and standing over them was Tahoe. But he was different. His eyes were blazing with golden light, so bright it hurt to look at them. The air around him hummed with energy. Small objects floated near him, lifted by some unseen power. He turned to look at her, and Yuna felt true fear for the first time in her life. "What?" she whispered. "What are you?" Tahoe's eyes slowly faded back to their normal brown. The floating objects fell to the ground. He looked at the bodies around him, then back at Yuna. "I told you," he said softly. "I came here to protect you, but how? What did you do? What was that power?" Tahoe walked toward her and knelt beside her bed. His face was sad and tired, like a man who had carried a heavy burden for far too long. "There is something I need to tell you," he said. "Something about humans. Something about what we really are." Yuna's whole body was shaking. Her worldview was crumbling. Everything she thought she knew about humans, about the universe, was suddenly wrong. "Tell me!" she demanded. "Tell me everything." Tahoe took a deep breath. "Millions of years ago," he began, "before your empire existed. Before most species in the galaxy even evolved, there was a civilization. The most powerful civilization that has ever existed. They built the first stars. They seeded life across the universe. They were called the architects." Yuna listened with wide eyes. The architects were human. Princess. Or rather, humans are what the architects became. Tahoe looked at his hands. "We are the builders of worlds, the shapers of reality. And we have been sleeping for a very, very long time." Outside the window, the twin moons of the Valari homeworld shone down on a universe that was about to change forever. Yuna sat on her bed, staring at the man she thought she knew. The 3 dead assassins lay forgotten on the floor. Guards would come soon. Questions would be asked. But right now, nothing mattered except the words coming from Tahoe's mouth. "I know this is hard to believe," Tahoe said, "but please let me explain everything." "Go on," Yuna whispered. Tahoe sat on the edge of her bed, keeping a respectful distance. "Millions of years ago, the architects ruled the universe. We could bend space and time. We could create matter from nothing. We could travel across galaxies in the blink of an eye." He paused. "We thought we were gods. What happened to them? To you, we were not alone in the universe. There was something else. Something older. Something hungry." Tahoe's eyes grew dark. "We called them the Hollow Ones, creatures of pure void, born in the emptiness between stars. They had only one purpose: to consume. They ate civilizations. They ate worlds. They ate stars themselves." Yuna felt a chill run down her spine. The architects fought them for centuries. But for every hollow one we destroyed, 10 more came. They were endless. They were patient, and slowly they began to win. Tahoe looked at his hands again. "In the end, our leaders made a terrible choice. The only way to hide from the hollow ones was to become invisible, to lock away our powers, to forget who we were. You made yourselves weak on purpose. We made ourselves human." Tahoe smiled sadly. "We sealed our memories and abilities deep inside our bodies. We scattered across a small planet called Earth and lived as primitives for millions of years. The Hollow Ones searched the universe for us, but they could not find what no longer existed. Yuna tried to understand. So all humans have this power? These abilities? The power sleeps inside every human, but only a few of us have awakened. Something in our bodies triggers it. Danger sometimes, strong emotion, the call of destiny. Tejo touched his chest. I awakened when I was 15. One moment I was normal, the next I could feel the energy of the universe flowing through me. Why did you hide it? Why not tell everyone? Because the Hollow Ones are still out there. They have been searching for millions of years, and they have never stopped. Tejo's voice grew serious. If humanity revealed itself, they would come. And this time, we might not be able to stop them. Yuna stood up and walked to the window. Her mind was racing. Everything she believed was wrong. Humans were not primitive insects. They were the oldest and most powerful species in existence. Her entire empire was built on a lie. Why are you telling me this now? She asked, without turning around. Because the Hollow Ones have found us. Tejo stood and walked to her side. They did not find Earth. They found something else. A way in through the cracks. What do you mean? General Heian, the assassination attempt. The war between our peoples? Tejo pointed at the dead assassins. None of this is random. The Hollow Ones have been manipulating everything. They cannot invade our universe directly yet, but they can influence weak minds. They can turn people into puppets. Yuna spun around. General Heian is working for these creatures? Not willingly. He does not even know it. Something has infected him. A fragment of Hollow One consciousness. It whispers to him. It fills him with hate. It pushes him toward war and destruction. How do you know all this? Tejo's eyes flickered with golden light for just a moment. I can feel it. When I awakened, I gained more than just power. I gained awareness. I can sense the darkness gathering around this world. Yuna looked at him with new eyes. This was not the weak human she had despised. This was something ancient. Something powerful. And yet, underneath it all, he was still the same kind man who planted flowers and helped servants. Why did you come here? She asked softly. The real reason, because I felt the danger when I first heard about the marriage proposal. I felt the darkness reaching toward you. Tejo reached out and gently took her hand. I came to protect you. Not because of politics. Not because of duty. Because something inside me knew that you were important. For everything that comes next, they stood together in the moonlight, hand in hand. Yuna felt tears forming in her eyes. She had spent her whole life surrounded by people who wanted things from her. Power, influence, alliance. But this man had crossed the stars just to keep her safe. What happens now? She whispered. Tomorrow is the Unity Festival. General Heian will make his move. The Hollow Ones want to restart the war between humans and Valari. They want both sides to destroy each other. Tejo squeezed her hand. I have to stop him, but I cannot do it alone. What do you need? I need you to trust me. Tejo looked into her eyes. I need you to stand beside me, not as my princess, but as my partner. Together, we can save your people. We can stop the coming darkness. Yuna thought about her life, her duty, her empire. She thought about all the things she had been taught about humans, and then she threw them all away. I will stand with you, she said. Whatever happens. Tejo smiled, and for the first time since the wedding, Yuna saw true happiness on his face. Thank you, Yuna, she smiled back. You called me by my name, not princess. Is that okay? It is more than okay. She stepped closer to him. I think I have been waiting for someone to see me as just Yuna for a very long time. They stayed by the window until dawn began to brighten the sky. The guards eventually came. The bodies were removed. Questions were asked. But Yuna told everyone it was a simple robbery attempt that her husband had stopped. No one believed that the human could defeat 3 elite assassins. But no one dared to question the princess. As the sun rose over the crystal towers, Tejo looked toward the festival grounds in the distance. Somewhere out there, General Heian was preparing his final attack. Somewhere out there, the Hollow Ones watched through corrupted eyes. The battle for the future of the galaxy would begin today, and for the first time in millions of years. A human would stand in the light and fight. Yuna came to stand beside him. "Are you scared?" Taeho thought about the question. "Yes, but not for myself. I am scared of what I might have to become to protect the people I love." "The people you love?" Taeho turned to look at her. "Yes, Yuna. I think I have loved you since the moment I saw you at the altar. I just did not want to admit it." Yuna's heart filled with warmth. She reached up and touched his face gently. "Then let us fight together," she said. "And when it is over, we can figure out what this love means." They walked out of their chambers side by side, ready to face whatever was coming. The princess and the awakened human. Two souls joined by fate. And a universe hanging in the balance. The Unity Festival filled the capital with color and music. Thousands of Valari crowded the streets, celebrating a peace they did not truly believe in. Children ran between food stalls. Musicians played ancient songs. For one day, the war seemed like a distant memory. Yuna stood on the main stage with Taeho beside her. Emperor Gon sat on a throne behind them, watching the crowd with tired eyes. General Heian stood at the edge of the stage, his face empty and cold. "Something is wrong with him," Yuna whispered to Taeho. "His eyes look dead." "The Hollow One inside him is waking up," Taeho replied quietly. "He will make his move soon." They waited. The festival continued. Speeches were made about peace and unity. The crowd cheered when expected and clapped when told. Everything seemed normal. Then the sky cracked open. A line of pure darkness appeared above the festival grounds, like someone had torn a hole in reality itself. The music stopped. The cheering died. Every face turned upward to see the impossible thing hanging in the sky. Things began to pour out of the crack. Creatures made of shadow and void, with too many limbs and no faces. They fell toward the crowd like black rain, screaming sounds that no living throat could make. Panic exploded everywhere. People ran in every direction. Guards fired their weapons at the creatures, but the plasma blasts passed through them like they were made of smoke. The creatures caught fleeing Valari and tore them apart with claws of pure darkness. On the stage, General Heian began to laugh. His body twisted and grew. Black tendrils burst from his back. His face split open to reveal something ancient and hungry underneath. Finally, the thing that was Heian said with a voice like grinding stone, "After millions of years, we have found you. The architects who thought they could hide from us." It pointed at Taeho with a twisted claw. "Your species will burn. Your worlds will be devoured. And this time, there is nowhere left to run." Taeho stepped forward. "You are right about one thing. There is nowhere to run." His eyes began to glow with golden light. "So we will stand and fight." The air around Taeho exploded with energy. His simple clothes burned away, replaced by armor of pure light. He rose into the air, power flowing from him like waves of heat. "What is this?" The creature hissed. "One awakened human cannot stop us." "You are alone." "I am not alone." Taeho raised his hand toward the sky. Across the festival grounds, across the planet, across the galaxy, something answered. On Earth, Suman sat in a command center surrounded by screens. She smiled and pressed a button. "All awakened units," she said into a microphone. "The time has come. Show them who we really are." All across the universe, humans began to glow. On Valari battleships, human prisoners broke free from their cells with strength that shattered metal. On distant colonies, human workers stopped their machines and rose into the sky. On Earth itself, thousands of awakened humans lifted off the ground in a wave of golden light. The Valari, watching at the festival, fell to their knees. They had spent 12 years fighting these creatures. They had called them primitive, weak, inferior. They had been so very wrong. Taeho flew toward the creatures pouring from the rift. He moved faster than light itself, his hands tearing through shadow bodies like paper. For every creature he destroyed, 3 more came. But he did not slow down. He did not stop. Yuna grabbed a weapon from a fallen guard and began firing at the creatures attacking the civilians. She was not awakened. She had no special powers. But she stood beside her people and fought anyway. "Everyone to the shelters," she screamed. "Move now." Emperor Gon joined his daughter, ancient and tired but still a warrior. Father and daughter fought back to back, protecting the fleeing crowds in the sky. Taeho faced the creature that had been General Heian. It had grown massive, a tower of darkness and hunger. "You cannot win," it said. "We have devoured galaxies." "You are nothing. You're human," Taeho replied. "We endure." They clashed with a force that cracked the ground below. Buildings crumbled. The air itself screamed. Taeho was thrown through walls, smashed into the earth, burned by void fire. But every time he fell, he got back up, because that is what humans do. On Earth, Suman activated the ancient weapon their ancestors had left behind. It was buried deep under the mountains, sleeping for millions of years. Power flowed through it like blood through veins. "Sealing the rift," she announced. All awakened, clear the area. A beam of pure light shot from Earth, crossing the galaxy in an instant. It hit the rift above the Valari homeworld and began to close it. The creatures, still outside the rift, screamed as they were cut off from their source. The thing that was hewn felt its power draining. It looked at the closing rift with something like fear. "This is not over," it snarled at Taeho. "We will return. We will always return, and we will always be waiting." Taeho gathered all his remaining strength into his hands. "But today, you lose." He drove his fist into the creature's chest. Light exploded outward, burning away the darkness, purifying the corruption. General Heian collapsed, unconscious but alive. The void creature was gone. The remaining shadow creatures dissolved as the rift closed completely. The sky cleared. The twin suns shone down on a battlefield covered in debris and bodies' silence fell over the festival grounds. Then slowly the survivors began to emerge from their hiding places. They looked at the destruction. They looked at the humans still floating in the sky, glowing with golden light. They looked at Taeho, standing exhausted but unbroken in the middle of it all. Emperor Gon walked toward him. The old ruler looked at the human who had saved his world, his daughter, his people. Then he did something no Valari emperor had ever done before. He knelt. "Forgive us," he said. "We did not know. We did not understand." Taeho reached down and helped the emperor to his feet. "There is nothing to forgive. You protected your people as any good leader would. The past is gone. Only the future matters now." Yuna ran to Taeho and threw her arms around him. He held her tight, his body shaking with exhaustion. "You did it," she whispered. "We did it," he corrected. Together, as the days that followed were filled with change. The truth about humanity spread across the galaxy. Some species reacted with fear, some with worship, most with simple wonder. But humanity did not seek revenge for the years of war. They did not demand submission or tribute. They offered only friendship and protection. Why? A Valari ambassador asked Suman during the peace talks. "You could rule us all. Why do you not take what you have earned?" "Because ruling others is easy," Sumin replied with a smile. "Building a future together takes strength. We choose to be strong." 1 year later, Yuna and Taeho stood on a balcony overlooking the rebuilt capital city. The crystal towers sparkled in the sunset. Children played in the streets below, Valari and human children playing together without fear. Yuna placed her hand on her belly. "I have something to tell you." Taeho looked at her, his eyes filling with tears of joy even before she spoke. "We are going to have a child," she said. "Half human, half Valari. The first of a new generation." Taeho pulled her into a gentle embrace. "Are you scared?" "A little," she admitted. "The universe is still dangerous. The hollow ones are still out there. Who knows what challenges our child will face?" Taeho looked up at the stars appearing in the darkening sky. "Then we will teach them what we know. That kindness is strength. That love is power. That no matter how dark things become, there is always hope." Yuna rested her head against his chest. "I married you to end a war. I never imagined I would find this. Find what? Everything. She looked up at him with tears in her violet eyes. A partner. A purpose. A love I never knew I was looking for. Teho kissed her forehead. And I found a reason to be strong. Not for myself. For you. For our child. For all of them. He gestured at the city below. At the stars above. At the galaxy, full of life and possibility. We are the architects, he said softly. The builders of worlds. The protectors of life. We forgot who we were for a long time. But now we remember, and we will never let the darkness win. Eunice smiled. Then let us build something beautiful. And so they did. Together, humanity and Valari created a new age of cooperation. They shared knowledge and culture. They built ships that sailed between the stars. They prepared for the day when the Hollow Ones would return. And in a small house on the Valari homeworld, a child grew up hearing stories about her father, the human who came to end a war, the man who hid his power until kindness was not enough, the architect who chose love over dominion. She would grow up to do great things. But that is a story for another time. For now, it is enough to know that somewhere in the universe, a human and a princess watch over the stars, waiting, protecting, hoping, because that is what humans do. They endure. They love, and they never, ever give up.